What's next for AI? What technology is emerging, and how should CIOs prepare today for tomorrow's architecture? The next panel session, it's about the future of AI, emerging technologies, and strategic implications for the organization. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Jimmy Wong, Executive Director of KPMG, to be the moderator for the next panel discussion.
Over the last 18 months, AI has gone from being a side topic where everyone talks about, right, to something a central part of business strategy. And now, even with being discussed in boardrooms and built into day-to-day operations. Now, what used to be very experimental is now essential and even business critical to most organizations, because you don't want to be left behind, right? So with this acceleration of technology comes complexity. Now, how do organizations prepare for what's next? And which technology will actually deliver impact? And not just making headlines, right? Really delivering impact to the organization, investing in it. And how do we scale AI responsibly? So all these are questions that will be thrown to you. And we're fortunate to hear from how you guys are going to do it from your organization point of view. So, first question, let's start by looking ahead, right? As your organization look into the next wave of AI innovation, which upcoming AI technologies do you think will have the biggest impact on your industry in the next 3 to 5 years? And what do you plan to achieve? And how are you testing and exploring it?
And within EPF, we've got this mantra going that's guided by what we call as ACET. Yeah? So ACEYT, A stands for adequacy. We want to make sure that you've got sufficient savings. C is coverage. We want to make sure that we've got sufficient coverage of the working population in Malaysia that's covered by the EPF or a similar scheme. E for experience, Y for returns and yields, obviously the dividends that you're also looking forward to in March every year. But also the trust factor, because we play such a critical role in the whole ecosystem. Yeah? So ACEYT. Now, with respect to AI, we think, and this is where we deep dive into the E aspect of the ACEYT, yeah? Of the ACET. We think multimodal generative AI and also agentic AI is going to be one of the key bets for us in the next future. Now, if I were to deep dive in customer service in particular, today we've got 16.5 million members that we service, yeah, through our branches of 69 branches and online so forth. That's 16.1 million members. We are expected to obviously support government initiatives. In the past, it's been the special withdrawals. More recently, it's been account 3. So there's obviously, big initiatives like this, they attract a lot of attention. There's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of inquiries. There's a lot of interest. Imagine if you were a contact center agent and you had that personal digital advisor to be able to assist you in it. On the other hand, if you push that a bit further, imagine if you yourself, as a member of EPF, you were given a personal retirement advisor that will help you along the way as you make those key financial decisions in your life cycle, right? Should I take the loan? Should I take all of the money out when I'm 55? Should I reinvest and so on and so forth? So imagine if you had those capabilities. Imagine the impact that the EPF can deliver to that 16.1 plus 2.5 plus the greater Malaysia in terms of improving their financial literacy, their understanding about retirement, their understanding around the fact that they've got to prepare for a longer livelihood, given longer life expectancy, and make all those big decisions in their life. So we're looking at those types of AI technology.
Right, so for Maxis, let me just share a bit of the plans, or rather where we see AI going for this year. Our focus in this year is actually about scaling AI. With scaling AI, we see that scaling AI is a priority for all CIOs and CTOs, especially for us. We have some failures. I'll share some failures just later. And scaling AI is quite important in this industry beyond just a LLM. Why I say beyond an LLM is that we need to maximize all the benefits that's shared on the table. I think there's a lot of vendors sharing that they have agentic approach. Now is the time for all CIOs and CTOs to rise and use this agentic approach. Actually, agentic is multimodal and all. It's nothing more than beyond automation. And the other focus that I believe that CTOs is focusing on is actually to manage risk of sovereign AI, trust and value. So for telcos, I think scaling AI is quite critical for competitiveness and to manage the operational resources, because we have quite a lot of operations resources. Just now earlier of the day, I mentioned the top key 3 areas that we are using AI for is customer service, very similar to EPF Afzal, because we are also facing the customer. And the second one is operations. Operations, we have 3 huge operations areas, enterprises, networks, and IT, and customer service operations as just now. And all these operational areas require a lot of handoffs and a lot of time to process. So the first ultimate goal is for us to manage the efficiency of the resources and the time to perform this operational task. In addition to this, for the AI and even the future of quantum computing, telcos are very important to, we have to eat our own dog food, right? Why? Because we are in the AI value chain itself. The AI value chain is actually about connectivity and infrastructure. Thankfully, I don't have to pay for those. And then it's also about intelligent products and services. And finally, is also to provide, great customer experience, right? So in Maxis, I think I summarized where our journey has been to. At the end of 2023, we first came up with the idea, okay, let's do something. And we came out with this thing called 90-day plan, right? 90 days happened by the end of 2023, and nothing much beyond just a few pilots and a few trials here and there. So 2024, we came out with a roadmap and a little bit of a different approach, managing the people side, which we call it an AI Insight organization. What's the result of that? We managed to train like 80% of the people in prompt engineering. So that was year 1. Year 1, the importance was prompt engineering. After the end of year 1, everything changed because all the large language model came up with multimodal and multiple areas of changes and agentic. And then so now we have to start again. In fact, the second one is the plans to scale AI. In 2025, this is what we plan to do. And we are going to use a combination of tools, both agentic as well as traditional AI and generative AI for the long-lasting effect of it. And we also plan to renew better customer experience from having it in the app, available to our customers, available to our partners, and also available as part of enterprises that we offer to the rest of the enterprise. The excitement is definitely there because we need to excite the executives to champion new use cases. Whereas, however, the biggest challenge was for us is actually adoption of AI itself. It might be very exciting for the technology guys, but for a lot of the masses, it's not very exciting. So we did do the board level education and the management level education. I did 2 board level education last year and 2 to 3 this year, from demos to presentation education to business value roadmap to even examples of where we can scale. And I think finally it has got the buy-in, and it's all getting the buy-in through CEO adoption and CEO sponsorship. And I think this is very important because I believe that AI is not a board responsibility, because board is mainly about governance, but management has the role to execute and also get the best use case out of it. So that's our AI journey in a nutshell.
Wow, that's quite a long journey. Thank you for sharing that. Eugene, let's hear from Plus. What emerging AI technologies
Okay,
Plus will
so
be using?
in my opinion, I think agentic will probably be going to be quite hot. But I also have a personal point of view, because I think for agentic to work, I think every company needs to open up. The ecosystem needs to be widened, because you can build all this agentic stuff and have abilities to call each other and do stuff for you. But if you don't open up, just like what Sharil said, right, in the previous, if the different industries don't open up and share and have ability to call each other, then in my opinion, agentic, I think, will be quite limited. So I think that is my answer for what I feel should be what's
So
going
how
to be
would
hot in the
this
future.
apply to you in
But for
Plus?
Plus, that's going to be a slightly different answer because Plus, again, my simplistic explanation to you is if you look at AI, actually there are a few waves of AI. So to keep it very simple, when Plus started its journey on AI, we did very, very simple stuff. We are not even doing all the LLM stuff and all that. I mean, we're experimenting on using LLMs, but our first wave of AI is only focused on computer vision, right? And there's tons of stuff that we are doing on using computer vision. And when we do computer vision, there is absolutely zero LLM involved, right? So what is computer vision? Recognition of number plates. We try and recognize vehicles and classify the vehicles, because I think traditionally we actually got people pushing buttons and classifying vehicles, right? And if you didn't know, if you drive on the highway, the cars you and I drive, they are class 1. But if you drive a taxi, is a different class. If you drive a heavy vehicle, is a different class. So all those have different toll pricing. So there's actually a human pressing in the past, but we've deployed some stuff where it automatically classifies. The other usage of computer vision, we've got drones that collect information, and we analyze images, and we try to do predictive maintenance in terms of slope. We've got IoT devices that look at the river levels. So for example, there are the early alerts that come when we can predict potentially flooding coming. And I think the most famous one is the AI that we have in the Penang Bridge. So that one is 100% computer vision. We detect, we see if a person is very close to the edge, and we've got timers. If that person has been long enough there, we flag so that we try to prevent suicides. So we've got, I think, about 40 something, 50 over lives that we've prevented. So that is wave 1. We've started to experiment wave 2, which is the more advanced stuff, which is like the LLMs and all that, but those are all internal. So for example, our old chatbot, our Putri chatbot, used to be wave 1, where I think, you know, if you use chatbots in the past, you will find that it's very boring, right? Chatbots have got little squares and you can click. So for example, if you go to the Putri chatbot, in the old chatbot, will say they have specific questions that you need to click. So those old school chatbots tend to try to navigate the types of questions that you want to ask. But we've got a new chatbot right now, and if we've integrated with Gemini, and so you can literally type questions in there and ask, you know, what's the toll fare between here and here and all that, and without even prompting, it should be able to give you the right answer. So these are the small things that we are investigating. And that's where we are probably moving. So a little bit more backward, but you know, I think in terms of using it to optimize operations.
Very nice. There'll be technology that makes sure that the bar goes up and the smart tech works as well. Han, what about you?
So thanks. I'm from Rimini Street. I'm sure in the audience we have our customers. But for those who less known of us, we are the global leaders for enterprise application support, right? A third-party support. So now coming back, I think many organizations probably underestimate this, right? And over here we talk about AIs, right? And then we talk about a lot of AI need to consume a lot on the data. Then where the data going to come from, right? So we just kind of imagine where is your data? So actually, what is like less being recognized, sitting maybe around for the last 10, 20 years, are important. That is where you first understand what is data, what is process. You start automating, let's say, for instance, your ERP, right? The ERP has a lot of your existing data. So our companies, what we do, we try to stabilize that foundation of where real-time data is coming from by extending the life, right? So our CEO, Seth, for many of us who have met him, he would say, okay, we will extend the life for 15 plus years, right? So that's where we apply AIs into that engineers, we have thousands of engineers, engineer for support. AI is getting into how to deploy the right resources to the right circumstance to make sure that the enterprise application, your enterprise application, keep on giving you the data. I just want us to imagine if the foundation is no more there, where will your data come from, right? So I would agree with Eugene just now. We just need to have that all practicality, get the foundation right. The other things that is important from my perspective is that end-to-end view, right? So we need to have the end-to-end data view, right? So you have many existing applications. There are probably hundreds of them. If you look from engineering to where your sales and support is. So how do we get a fabric of data both inside and outside, right? And maintaining that stable foundation, yet you develop end-to-end view. So from my view, I've been in automation industry for a long time, industry CTO. So that foundation has to be laid solid, right? As we evolve AI with more advanced AI, like eventually reaching a physical AI that we are so desiring. So, but in short, data, your source system, data, AI, workflow, and your user engagement all has to come together.
When it comes to AI, we all can agree that it's just not just a tech upgrade, right? Now let's get interesting, right? So how does an organization prepare for all these AI technologies in terms of the way the organization work, think, and lead, the shift in this, the strategy behind it, right? So what changes are your organization making in terms of the governance, the talents, the way that you work before, and now you're going to change the way you work, maybe change in policies and process? Maybe share a bit of that so that, that your organization will stay in the pace for this AI innovation. Maybe let's start with Eugene.
If you ask me, I think the organization, the understanding of how AI can be used and acceptance, I think, and maybe a little bit of tweaks in terms of the way they work is quite important for the, for the ability to embrace AI. So I'll give you a very good example. I think earlier in the previous session, I think, again, Sharil, I don't know why I keep mentioning his name. He talked about Copilot, right? So I can tell you, I also tried Copilot, and personally, I feel it's terrible. Okay? Okay, so
Microsoft people, yeah.
okay, but maybe I take a step back. It's not so terrible. I think it's usable, but in my opinion, it's a little bit oversold.
Could be better, right?
So in the plus context, when we heard about the fantastic news about Copilot, wow, the fellow can summarize the meeting minutes for you and follow up and all that. So we all thought, wow, damn terror, man. But we realized a few things. Number one is most of the meetings in plus when we hold meetings is campur aduk one, right? We speak a little bit English after that. We speak Malay and all that. Then we realized, hey, actually Copilot cannot summarize because he cannot understand, right? His ability for understanding Malay was abysmal. So, and then the second thing that we found out was we had a lot of hybrid meetings, right? And then we also had physical meetings. So we found out that one of the things that, for you to enable the meeting summarization was if you do 100% work from home, then it's quite easy because Copilot knows exactly who is talking, right? Because you have your own devices. But the moment you have hybrid, or the moment we have one speaker phone, and then with 50 guys in a room or 10 guys in a room talking, then the AI gets confused, right? It doesn't know who is talking. So simple things like telling people that, okay, if you want Copilot to summarize, maybe you should try to speak more English, use less Malay, less colloquialism. So not easy for being a GLC organization, but slowly people are changing. So we've seen the minute taking improving, not perfect, but this is just an example in terms of why I feel organization needs to change. So at the end of the day, technology adoption, technology can be great, but at the end of the day, it's always a human thing or it's a change management thing that is probably, in my opinion, the biggest barrier.
Thank you. Mei Ching, you have anything to add to this one?
Firstly, I also don't use Microsoft Copilot very well. I think all of us suddenly not, right? So I but we don't want to bash anybody here in this forum.
See, they're not
I
on the
just go.
sponsors
I
list,
just go
okay.
to a different tangent altogether. Okay, so something different. Okay, so I think when we started off, like I said earlier, we try to train junior people. They absorb very fast. So there was a board meeting that we went into, and we presented to the chairman of the board, my chairman of the board, and it was very exciting. What are the use cases and all? And I told the chairman of the board, I've got 25 people working on this. They are all below 30 years old. And then she was very concerned, right? Then she asked me, so what about the older people, right? And I said, well, the older people is the one that needs to actually define what is the problem to solve. And I think this is the ecosystem that we are trying to match together, the ones who are junior and the ones who are more senior. In fact, the challenge is the one who are more senior understands the processes and the problems they're trying to solve with AI, but they do not understand how to use AI. The ones who are younger knows how to cook, or rather knows how to create an AI solution, but they do not know how to address the problem. So it's a good understanding or learning is to bring these two parties together, and so that no one gets left behind. And that includes also the sponsorship from the management and the board as well. But as much as possible, try to create that sort of culture where everybody tries to innovate very fast. That's what we are learning.
So I think the lesson learned is all farts like us have a role to play because we understand both.
Well, what about EPF? I think you have a last picture of people, right? That's interesting to hear from.
You know, we sort of tweaked a couple of things. One was, well, obviously, you know, governance is quite an important part. We were quite fortunate. We've got a data governance process and framework in place. We've then expanded that to obviously look at responsible AI, looking at various standards and what have you. So if you look at it, you know, we now have to, if you put the acronyms together, we've got governance of responsible AI and data. So it's like go rate. You know. Not sure whether we're going to keep that or not, but nevertheless, so the first thing we did was look at governance, make sure that we've extended that to include the principles. The other, I agree with my fellow peers around capabilities and talent on a couple of parts. One was, you know, we've decided to set up an AI COE. Took a combination of guys who were innovation, you know, full stack guys, business purely on innovation, put them together and then be able to work on some of that. But what the other interesting part with AI was that as much as we did all the the summits on AI and what have you, we had something interesting where the leaders approached the AI COE and us individually because they felt that they didn't understand AI enough. So they didn't understand AI enough and they wanted personal tutoring. So what we did was, as we did our brown bags and what have you, we actually had one-to-one sessions with various leaders because we felt that, okay, you know, you might be, you know, obviously you're not technical and so on and so forth, but it's important that you fully understand in your line and you may not want to, you know, obviously go for trainings and whatever. So one of the things that we did as part of our outreach is we actually have these one-to-one sessions where we engage with the leaders and talk to them. The other aspect that we're looking at is, you know, what that we did was also we did, you know, hackathons and innovation, and that was quite good. It was good because it had participation from, again, non-tech business with all kinds of ideas. And to Mei Ching's point, getting young guys involved in the organization so they have greater ideas and so on and so forth. So those were some of the stuff that we did. So essentially, you know, better governance, looking at how do we then fully establish an AI COE, but also ramp up the change management aspect in terms of both the leadership level, but also the folks at the bottom, give them exposure and empowerment and tools and so on for us to be able to innovate and ideate.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think aside from the difficulty and strategy in implementing technology related to AI, the people shift is very important, right? So there has to be like proper strategy and policy and process put in to make sure the people are willingly ready to adopt and want to change, right? So people is the hardest to change, right? So okay, my next question, Han, you're the target one, right?
Thank you.
So you work with many companies across the region on AI adoption, especially on the system support level and all, right? So from as a managed service and support perspective, right, company, so you've seen a lot of things that's happening, people doing adoption of AI and all, right? So what's the most common mistakes that companies made in Malaysia that you can share?
So here's my thoughts. First, I talk about stabilizing your source system, your system of records. So that's where people trust, right? You trust the finance, auditor trust, everybody trusts that system. I find a common mistake is reinvention after reinvention. I think that's scary to me, right? So you just go do another 18 months of big implementation of enterprise applications, and then we've got to learn, right? Where is my data, right? Do you really know your assets, right? Data as an asset. Do you really know your process? I think this is the biggest part, I think the biggest hurdle. We're thinking too much of application. We're also thinking too much of technology, but we forget what we owned, what we want to be best known for. Where is knowledge going to be built, right? Where is wisdom? Because at the end of the day, you win by wisdom. You win by knowledge, right? Where do you want to win? So that means stabilizing your system of record and move into a platform. I think much of that today's conference talk about that, right? We need a platform. What is that platform? Where technology gives to us. It's a blessing. I call it blessing. Data. You have the ability to scale data inside out, right? So that's one. And I find a lot of common challenges is, I find organization, there's one team that does a traditional ERP, right? The system of record. Another team does the data. Another team does the workflow. Another team comes up, they do AI, right? It's like at some point, we are creating silos. At some point, we are like trying to outcompete each other's in the internal teams. Whereas my point is, these 4 areas where your system of record is, your data, your AI, your workflow, and the user experience should all come into one platform, right? One unified platform to enable IT and the line of business to work together. I think that's where it addresses the maturity. So the maturity would be that, oh, we understand. Let's talk, right? What real pervasive visibility means to the organization. Where is the disconnect in the process, right? How AI can help the decoupling point. I call it decoupling points, right? There are many, many decoupling points. How do we connect them? And how do we make best to enable the entire organization to take benefits for these powerful technologies? So that's my view.
Now, it brings us nicely to my next question, right? Which is scaling AI, which is Mei Ching's favorite topic. Now, besides having the right tools, it's all about the right foundation, and we're talking about strong data, now clear use cases, and how you get yourself ready. So how is your organization preparing the groundwork for this in terms of data, and testing whether your data is actually there and working properly, and operational readiness, and so that you can scale your AI. So and what strategy are you putting in place for this?
We've been very fortunate because we started the journey of cloud data warehouse. And after that, that means we start the foundation right in terms of data back in 2019 kind of thing, and throughout the COVID 2020 kind of time frame. We use a very simple framework from a digital transformation perspective. We have a framework whereby we have, everything is looked at from 3 angles. One is, what is the customer that you're trying to solve the problem for? Which are the customers? What are the pain points? What are the user journeys, or rather, what are the use cases around that? Number 2 is capability, and capability is the field and domain of all the CTOs and CIOs, and this is about the data, where it is, whether you have a rack or not have a rack, and what sort of tools what sort of AI platform do you want to engage upon, and a lot of stories around that. And I think for that capability, and by the way, the third one is culture, so it's a 3C kind of thing, right? Culture is about the people, which we have talked about in the previous question. But the main point about capability is that we learn a lot in capability through the first year and the second year. Why? Because capability is really about how do you build this in a different way. Even the building process is correct. I give you a very simple question. simple example. When you're testing for LLM and Gen AI, it cannot be 100% pass all the tests before you go live. And when we test go live, we cannot go live with 100% is perfectly okay and system is perfectly defined and okay, let's go. Is like 80%. Is it good enough? How about if it's wrong? Who's going to check this? How are we going to do this? And there's a lot of questions and we still don't have 100% of the answer yet. But generally speaking, the business user is also understanding that it's a tool and therefore sometimes the tool can be wrong. So we have to be very careful.
Thank you. Thanks, Ray. Azhar, what about you? You got lots of data, right? So what strategy taking for your data in terms of making sure there's one big, huge data frame, right?
Almost similar to Mei Ching's journey, we've got enterprise data warehouse predominantly structured. What we're in the process of doing is, one, looking at a unified AI and data architecture. So we look at it holistically, not only from a data perspective, but looking at how data can support the overall AI ambitions. That's one. That's still a work in progress. But interestingly enough, as we're sort of designing the AI architecture, if you will, for the various use cases that we've got in the pipeline, we're starting to see repeatability, right? So we're starting to see that at the end of the day, whether it's a use case of an equity research analyst trying to make or perform an analysis of various companies or sectors or geographies that we've got to invest in, and this ranges from about 300 counters upwards and globally and so on and so forth, or whether it's us looking at putting in place decisions that are made at the board, at the investment panel, or at the procurement committee, it's almost it's almost very similar in terms of architecture. So what we've done is we've now started to look at design patterns, so that ultimately it's not repeating the effort, redoing everything again, and we look at the concept of having design patterns that are given certain needs or requirements around the AI use case, and then coupling that with the unified AI and data architecture to be able to accelerate some of this. And of course, we've got the data governance thing in place as well already.
So we talk a lot about AI, the strategy, the data, the technologies. Now, what about measuring success? That's a very interesting question, right? Because it's not just about efficiency and cost saving anymore. Everybody knows that, right? So how do you create a long-term advantage? So how do you measure the real strategic value or the competitive advantage that AI has given to you? What sort of KPI do you use to quantify it? This will be interesting. Let's start with Eugene from Plus, right? Maybe you can share some thoughts.
Traditionally people look at return on investment, but I think in Plus, especially in the highway industry, the government, or rather the highway authority, actually measures. It's almost like a customer service score. So different industries have similar concepts. So I think the customer service score, or some industries you call it a net promoter score. I think it's something that you should use as part of your framework to measure success. And then especially if you're very heavy into operations and all that, other areas that you should maybe look into measuring is maybe reduction in terms of errors. So if you and then how fast you roll things out, or how fast you fix problems, those I think are measurements that you can use. Although you can indirectly tie it back to return on investment, but I think these are some things that you should start measuring, so that you will find that you can use AI to actually help you. So with the usage of AI, a number of errors reduce, number of defects reduce, or time to sort out defects are much faster. Those I think can be used and maybe hopefully expanded to other industries as well.
Mei Ching, what about Maxis?
I think two types of use cases. The larger ones that are what we call lighthouse use cases, which we have refined all our energy for this year to be a bit more focused. Those need to have a measurable outcome for value to the board, right? So those would be actually very simple if it's cost reduction. For example, our contact center, we have 400,000 calls a month and approximately about 700-800 staff for the contact center. So if you take the number of staff reductions for the easy questions that ask, reduction of cost, reduction of staff, it translates to operational cost saving. The second one is actually outbound calls, right? For collections, I think just now Bill mentioned also. Instead of having people making calls and says, "Can you pay for your phone bill and all?" We can have a voice bot do the job. And we challenge the vendors who are trying to help us do this. It says, "Okay, my current cost of a staff is 3,000 ringgit for the contact outbound. Can you beat that? If you can beat that, you can have this bot." So it's very simple equation for that. But the one that's most tricky is the productivity improvement ones. So I struggle a little bit with this and would like to hear what other people think. Because I say if you target 1 hour of productivity improvement because you can write better emails and you can do better meeting minute summary, would that mean that you would save 12.5% of your staff at the end of the year? The answer is no. The guy is going to use 1 hour to drink some teh tarik or
Do something
he
else.
writes, do some other things and things like that. So that one I think is quite tricky. I haven't
Right.
found the answer. Would be glad to hear what else other people think.
Do you have that challenge, maybe?
No, we're not, revenue or profit driven, obviously. But on a very broad level, we try to align it back to our ACE-YT ambitions that I spoke about, whether it helps and so on and so forth. But the real honest truth is where we are today, because a lot of it is in the pipeline, it's in experimentation phase, and so on and so forth. That's tricky. But I would agree with my fellow colleagues and peers around, simple stuff around productivity improvement. Can we do it faster, whether it's generating an analyst report instead of taking 5 days, can be done in 1 or 2 hours? That's already quite a good measure, and so on and so forth. But I think the other metrics that we can look at also is just metrics around AI adoption. So how many use cases do we have in the pipeline? How many of those new innovations or use cases are AI driven or has some element of AI in it? So just broad-based, more around adoption, less about the outcome per se. But I think where we are at, because it's so new technology, we've got to go through that phase where it's, it's a mixture of, yes, outcome driven, but also some innovation and adoption driven metrics. So, number of use cases, how many AI initiatives in the pipeline, how many does our digital factory produce, and what's the cadence of that, and so on and so forth.
I'm an industrial guy, so I think the classic, at least from a CEO point of view, the classic operational excellence will not change, right? So I mean, straight, I want cost out, right? So I mean, the perception is AI is helping, will help, right? So, but other than that, I mean, coming back to where Rimini Street core businesses is, I mean, from a business processes, shorter response time. I mean, we are committing to 10 minutes response time. Sure, from a customer experience point of view, AIs will help tremendously in deploying the right engineer at the right time to resolve the right problems. It's all this because of pervasive data, because of AI, because of end-to-end workflow, exact, and the industry will push that these to be done that way, right? And while we just have to be kind along the way, as we mentioned, be kind, be more conscious, be, that we don't out-compete each other to the point that, that is over-competitive, and then we don't have that human factors in there.
One last wrap-up question, not more than 10 seconds, please. So what is, to share with our fellow this year, what is the one mindset shift that everyone must have in terms of leveraging or adopting AI technologies?
I think we need to be the orchestrator for AI going forward, not the control, must do, govern, CTIO, CEO. It's new technology. I think we have to allow a safe environment, whether it's a sandbox in my view, for the entire population to be able to experiment, test, fail fast, and then move along.
Great. 10 seconds.
Stay curious, stay hungry.
I think be open, embrace AI, and always remember at the end of the day, I think the human is still quite important. So you control it.
We need the discipline. Without discipline, you cannot learn, right? So that means sweating your asset, get the support right? And then whatever there's opportunity, optimize, right? And then innovate, but bite size. Don't have another big, massive, big project, and I think that won't go. I think just a discipline, we call it smart path forward, right, into the future. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Start small, start simple step. So I wish you all a good journey in your AI. Thank you, C panels. You've all been fantastic. Thank you very much.